I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, December the 18th, brought to you in part by Livestock Risk Services. They are your LRP specialists. That's Dakota Moss and all these other agents that work right along with him. Give any of them a call. They'd be glad to help you out. Over the last several weeks, I have heard that of several producers that are kind of disgruntled with the LRPs because the market's been going up. So you haven't had to have a livestock risk protection as far as the market goes, because the market just keeps going up. But if you think about it, we've been at all-time record highs here for quite some time. If you look down, there's a hell of a lot more room below us than there is above us. And you may be complaining that the premiums are too high. Well, the same could be said for homeowners insurance right up until the time that the fire comes. So think about it, guys. We've got some really expensive, especially stocker cattle that we're buying to turn out, and they could lose the farm, guys. This market could go down a lot. You just have to think it can happen. For more information, go to livestockriskservices.com. Fewer cattle equals fewer placements. One would think. On Tuesday, CME daily livestock report come out with their guesses for the cattle on feed report that's coming out this Friday, and we were expecting double-digit lower placements. We were just talking about that a couple of weeks ago, if you remember. We were saying, how's this industry going to respond whenever we have placements that are up to 10% lower than a year ago, because they're always guessing what it is compared to the same report a year ago. Well, the analysts come out with their guess, and they're only at 4% lower. Now, I would have thought surely they would have been thinking, maybe 92 or 93% of a year ago, but they're thinking right around 96% of a year ago, and that surprises me. Our October placements were huge. We know that, and and that was mostly due to a dry late summer, early fall. But then we had all that moisture in November, a lot of it, and it caused our auction receipts to be down 13.4%. For those weighing over 600 pounds, down 14.3% because it was just too wet to get the cattle in. But that resulted in all this winter forage that's just everywhere, and guys are scrambling. They're turning cattle weighing way up in the 700-pound range out on wheat, out on ryegrass, places like that. That means fewer cattle going into the feedlot, fewer placements. And I guess I just can't believe that they've only got it guessed at 95.9%, but that's around 4% lower than a year ago. I'm thinking it's going to be more like 7 or 8 or 10 lower. Of course, if it's not that much lower, I'll just say that they're wrong, so it's easy for me. But I was with the government long enough to know how they do things, and I think that there's too many variables here for their models. And if those guys would look up from the numbers once in a while and just kind of, think, what are we looking at here? There's some real things, some fundamental things that we need to look at. Maybe we need to adjust that a little bit lower. But the average of the analyst guesses are in. They're 4% lower. Maybe they're guessing that the USDA will get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it should be lower than that. Whether it's right or not, who knows? But the border also closed in November, but it didn't close until late November. There was only a few days there that was really affected, but still that affected things also. But it's just kind of unbelievable that it's only that much lower. But for a change, it leaves us with the opportunity to have this month's cattle on feed report be really bullish. And I think it should be really bullish. This board is needing some more reasons to get a fire lit under it. As high as it's setting right now, it's going to have to take something to push it on a little bit more, and maybe a bullish cattle on feed report would do it. But your on feed inventories for December the 1st are guessed at 99.9. I don't know, I would have thought they would have been a little bit lower than that too, because a lot of those cattle that are on feed right now have been in there for a long time. But we are starting to work through them. Placements 95.9%. And another thing that shocked me about the analysts that guessed, their range of guesses were only 92.6 to 98.9. So nobody thought that it would be 10% lower. But your marketings in November are sitting at 98.2% with 1 day fewer there to make those sales. But let's talk about your board. On Tuesday, December live cattle futures were up 22 cents at 192 1/4. That's quite a ways back from last week's weighted average in the 5-area feeding region. February was down 22 cents at 189.75. Then your back months were just kind of mixed, but not a whole lot, from down 22 to up 35 cents. January feeder cattle up 192 at 257.47. And, you know, it's starting to get on the backside of December. They need to get within hunting range of those cash index levels. So maybe it felt like it needed to go up a little bit. March feeder cattle up 190 at 258.27. Your back months up 192 to up 215. So if you are thinking about an LRP, you want to notice that on Tuesday, those back months were quite a bit higher on your futures, is where you start pricing those guys. March corn down 1.5 cents a bushel at 443 1/2. January beans down 5 1/4 cents a bushel at 976 3/4. And hard red winter wheat for March down 6 3/4 cents at 552 1/2. Fat cattle trade, of course, it's early in the week. We haven't seen a lot, but it's starting to take shape a little bit here. Iowa didn't have any sales on Tuesday, but all of a sudden we see that Monday late afternoon they sold 400 head at 195.50. That's near the extreme top of last week. Gives us an idea that we could get steady money, even a little bit more, even though we're right ahead of a couple of big holidays here. They've still got to have cattle ready to deliver whenever they have an opportunity to open those plants through the holiday, abbreviated schedule there. Nebraska didn't have any sales, haven't had any sales this week. Kansas sold 550 head at 191.50. Now, it's not that far from Kansas to Nebraska. In fact, you can step over the line there. But they're selling them at 191.50. What gets me is who is behooved to sell cattle at 191.50 when they know that all their neighboring feedlots are going to sell $2 to $3 over that market, and they're still going to be a bargain compared to what they're bringing just to the north or back to the northeast there a little bit. It's a little bit screwy there. Texas didn't have any sales so far this week. But we did have a market maker at Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. That 2,100 fats in overnight, 3,100 for the fat cattle auction brick and mortar sale there. Conventional fat cattle bring from 194 to 197.50. That's steady to $3 higher. I think I would take mine to the Stockman's Livestock in Yankton if I wanted to cash them in. I was having a hard time getting them sold. Program cattle, especially if I had them non-implanted or drug-free, they sell from 194 1/2 to 201.50. They were selling cattle weighing nearly a ton at almost 190. You just got to be thinking about that. These packers are still wanting them, guys. Several groups going back to feed, and of course they're bringing well over $2 a pound. Box beef cutout values were lower on Tuesday. Choice cuts down 174 at 315.63. Selects down 107 at 288.50. Slaughter just through the first 2 days of the week, 241,000 estimated cattle slaughtered. That's 2,000 better than this point last week, 6,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Performance Livestock Analytics. Now this software that helps simplify your cattle feeding outfit It is created by cattlemen for cattlemen. Maybe the best testimonial for Performance Livestock Analytics and Performance Beef is that my friend Steve Hashey up there in eastern South Dakota was having to feed for a neighbor, which he does good things for his neighbors all the time. He's always cooking for gatherings of friends of his and things like that. But he was doing his cattle feeding for him. He just lives right across the road and up a little ways there. But his neighbor had Performance Beef software on his tractor and you know, on his scales and everything. And Steve was able to figure it out the first trip. So if you know Steve, you'll understand how impressive that is. But Steve's a good buddy of mine, and he's a great guy. And tell you what, it's fairly simple, and it will help you a lot. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets, your real-time index on DVAuction. Late in the day on Tuesday, after your feeder cattle auctions had all closed, sitting at 263.86. That's a new high, or a new ending day high for your real-time index. That was up another 60 cents on Tuesday. Latest CME cash feeder cattle index, I believe, is a new high for them at 262.54. Very impressive. A couple of big sales to look out for here on Wednesday. Stockman's Livestock Market that we just talked about in their fat cattle auction. They've got 6,500 top quality feeders and calves to sell here today on Wednesday. You can view and bid that sale at DVAuction.com. Also, Bassett Livestock Auction, their holiday bred cow and bred heifer special is today starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. You can view and bid that sale on DVAuction.com. Check on DVAuction for all the sales that we broadcast, and it's a lot of them, guys. But look at some of your big sales on Tuesday. Of course, Beaver County Stockyards, we talked about them on our last visit. They had a good sale. They had sold at least 5,500 when I pulled this report in the evening. They likely had a few left to sell. For some reason, the Federal State Market Report said they only had 4,000. Well, they had a hell of a lot more than that in the yards on Monday. So I'm thinking he was just a little off on that. But did note that the 4 and 5 weight calves were some lower. And we've seen that since a couple, 3 weeks ago when they went so crazy. Some of the guys just said, whoa, 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 let's buy heavier cattle. We can get more cattle for the same price. And those bigger cattle, the middleweight cattle and the feeding weight cattle were all higher. So check out this, it is your NationalBeefWire stick-out sale of the day for the market. And I mean the top of the market in the Southern Plains, guys. Look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see your best tested weights, which are many of them. But check this out, 412 head of 4-weight steers in Beaver, Oklahoma, averaged 460 with a weighted average price of $370,378. 621 head of 5-weight steers averaged 562, weighted average price on all of them at $315.59. 656 head of 6-weight steers averaged 644 at $292.44. There was 292 head of the 7-weight steers, they averaged 742, weighted average price $265.15, and 395 head of 8-weight steers averaged 854 at $258.56. The heifers, 693 head of 4-weight heifer calves. Where else you gonna find that many, guys? They averaged 460 pounds, weighted average price $323.04. 839 head of the 5-weight heifers, they were quite a bit lower. They averaged 555 at $280.18, still a good price. 316 head of 6-weight heifers averaged 651 at $252.55, and 279 head of 7-weight heifers averaged 729 in Beaver County stockyards, and had a weighted average price of $248.32. Now, one in particular, there were several impressive quotes, individual quotes from Beaver, but the one that I thought was the most impressive out of Beaver, even though those 4 and 5 weight calves were lower, they did have one group 73 Pee-wee steers averaged 448 and bring 419. They couldn't have been a whole lot lower. Some individual quotes from all around. How about out east, Knoxville Livestock Auction Center in Mascot, Tennessee? You think, oh, I might have to order some cheap calves from back east. Well, at Knoxville Livestock Auction Center, they sold 77 steer calves, weighed 562 at 323. Put wheels under them, they get pretty high pretty fast, guys. How about Fairview, Oklahoma, Fairview Livestock Commission? They sell 51 steers, weigh 763 at 275.50, and I bet those steers get turned down on wheat for a while. How about Fredonia Livestock Auction in Fredonia, Kansas? They sold some big home-raised steers off the Pickett Ranch. 66 of them weighed 921 and bring 254. But the most impressive quote for where it's at and all the variables included, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, come out of Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington, Kentucky. They sell 69 steers, weighed 753 at 282. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.